Welcome to Norwegian Modeling Bench. This is Kenneth, and this is the 19th installment on the CV-6 build. Today I am starting with the island, and this will be in several parts. There's a lot of details involved here. So I hope that you enjoy and that you will like to follow the build and like and subscribe and give me comments if you like. Enjoy. Yes, time for the island conning tower. And there are a lot of PE going on this one. There are some of the kit parts that you need to use. Otherwise, it's quite a few pages. I think it's 5 pages in the instructions, or 6. So it's going to be quite a lengthy build. So this will be definitely in several parts. So this is what we are aiming for. I think there are a lot of nice details going on here, and there are some things that I think is worth looking at in the beginning, and that is preparing the main plastic part. We have some doors that will be installed. We have the pilot house, or the bridge itself going in, so there are some parts that needs to be removed here. And I am also going to use the KA scuttles as I did for the hull. So I will also drill out all the portholes, adding the scuttles, removing the doors, so preparing the main part. Then I am thinking that all of these pilot houses and I don't know what they all are, observation decks and so on, they will need some interior color. So I will make them first, then paint them up with some light gray inside, I think. I also think it will be nice, at least for the bridge, to add some details inside, so some chairs and maybe some wiring and so on in the ceiling. And then also add some windows. So that will also give me a bit of a headache in terms of the sequence. So I need to make these ready, paint them up in inside first, then mask off the windows, paint the outside, then add the windows and the interior before closing it up and installing it. Also adding some crew members, I think, will be quite nice. So we have some life going on board. So I think that will be my game plan. It might, of course, change during the build when I discover new things. So I have cheated and started a bit. So I have removed the doors, sanded them down. I have drilled out the portholes, and I've also removed this this part. So there is a jig that you need to use to get that properly. I'm not sure if it's 100% at this point in time. Based on the jig, it looks okay, but I think that the answer will come when installing this one. So dry fitting, adjusting when I have that part ready will probably be the best. And then I've also prepared this one. They're just 2 kit parts, N28 and L27. glue them together, so they should be ready for the PE. Yes, so moving on. So as I said, first out, I'm drilling out all the portholes in the main structure. So I'm using a wow stick here for those that are not familiar with that one. I think it's a pretty good tool to use for these kind of operations. And of course, finding the correct drill bit is of essence. I can't remember which size this was, but that's easy to figure out. Then I was placing the scuttles, and these are from the KA kit. Just applying them as on the hull, placing them on the drilled portholes, and then using thin CA to attach them. And that's quite easy to do, at least when you can have the object lying flat. So I think that's a good way of doing this. And there are, when you look at pictures, there are different types of portholes on the structure. So some are with these doors that you can open and close. I guess that have a better name. Also being aware that I might have to remove some of these if they are in the way of other structures. And I'm also only gluing the part around the porthole, not the door itself, because I want to be able to have them in an open position, not like it is now, but that will be done later. And then it's adding some of the doors. At least have one door remaining, but that will be placed later on. So this is the final result with all the doors and scuttles in place before I can move on with some of the PE assembly. And the first thing was the bridge or the pilot house. And well, this is regular operation, just using a bending plier just to bend the photo etch. Be careful, plan ahead which sequence you want to do this in, so you don't get into trouble later on. And of course, when bending these things, be aware if you have like smaller parts, you should always bend on the side where there are smaller parts. So keeping the plier on that side, and in some cases also shifting between the sides so you don't get too much tension in one of the sides. And then it is just lining them up. Be patient, this takes time to get properly aligned, and when that's all done, it is just to use CA glue to fix them in position. Of course you can solder as well, but well, that's not my forte. So there are a couple of these houses that I wanted to prepare. So I guess this is the observation bridge for the flight deck. Same operation here, bending sides. I also prepared some of the supporting structures beneath, as you can see on the top of my desk there, and also the flooring that will go on afterwards, after I've bent. And then I'm just applying some CA glue on one of the sides before sliding in the floor on the structure, so I can align it with the part sticking out there. That is the most important one to get correct, and then fixing it on the other side with some CA glue. And then it is time to add those support structures beneath. So as I've done before, just gluing them together using reverse tweezers and then some thin CA glue to make sure that it all aligns and is properly bonded together. So in this stage, I'm also securing the top or roof window before adding those support brackets. I don't know, it probably has a really good engineering and marine name, which I'm not aware of. And then there are some doors and handles that are going on the outside of the structure, quite small ones. So using some magnifying visors or so on. That's very good to have at hand in those cases, I think, at least. And yeah, just use patience, really. Well, that's the most important thing with working with photo etch. And the same thing with these going on these support structures and all really beams that you have. Just take your time to make the correct shape before trying or before adding them. If they're not in correct shape and trying to press them in place, that will definitely not yield a good result. And then just regular CA glue and a dash of patience to get them properly in place. And again, some magnifying visors are really handy in these cases as well. And then we have this one going on the aft of the island. Just be aware of this tiny thing that's supposed to tighten or close the gap between the roof structures. That should be pulled back before bending, and Pontos did a really nice mistake on that one, so it doesn't really fill the gap. But okay, some mistakes on their part as well. And the same thing here, as you can see, I'm applying pressure on both sides when bending, so the tiny window structure won't get bended. If I did that only on one side, usually you would end up with one side being out of shape. Yes, and that's really kind of the main operations for this part of the build. So here we can see I've added those handles and doors ready for the paint job, as I indicated earlier on. And that's really what I figured out. I will paint all of these different parts up. There are so many nooks and crevices on the structure that it will become really difficult to paint afterwards. So that is my game plan. So painting up the main structure and then the different parts, because you want to have those decks in deck blue. And there are areas where you won't be able to reach in if you add all the parts and then paint. At least that's my opinion. And then it's adding these bulkhead improvements. Again, using CA. This is slow CA. It's not very slow. You don't have much time to place, but at least it gives you some extra seconds than a regular CA, but you really need to be careful about the placement before pushing down, because these thin bulkhead walls, you can't really remove them, then you will definitely destroy them. Lesson learned from earlier on. So use time to position them correctly before pushing them down into the CA glue. So that is a lot of the main structures for the forward part of the island being pre-assembled. Also added this one. The alignment is okay. And as you can see, I've not added the sides and the structures beneath. I had to close some gaps, and I didn't want to have those structures beneath in place before doing this. Yes, and then you can see I've painted up the inside with pale gray and the outside with navy blue, for these parts at least. Then I've also prepared a lot of the different items going on the deck. So as you can see, I've used polystyrene clear from Evergreen and glue-in glaze to get those windows in place. Don't use CA, that will fog up the windows. And then I'm preparing all the parts for painting before moving on. So that's it for this time. I hope that you enjoyed. So keep safe until next time. Bye for now.